And that's ultimately what we're here to do. I'm just going to speak for 5 minutes about the creative economy, and then I'm just going to give you a preview of the dashboard and let you see its different features and how it is that you can use it. So before we get started, I think we all have a pretty decent understanding of what it is we mean by the creative economy, but I like to juxtapose the creative economy with the economy as it existed for much of the 20th century, in which sort of economic growth and prosperity was really driven in the US by the physical manufacture of goods, by manufacturing industries. That started to change. Manufacturing employment in the US peaked in 1979. Ever since, we never had as many jobs in manufacturing as we did in 1979. And what started to happen was that a new host of new industries started to emerge, which were the drivers of prosperity and growth within the US economy. And what differentiates these industries is that these new industries are sort of information oriented. They are driven by ideas and innovation and creativity. And these are the sort of 9 subsectors that we use to define the creative economy. I think most of them are pretty self-explanatory. The 2 that I just bring to your attention are traditional media and new media. Traditional media effectively refers to printed media. It is books, magazines, newspapers, whereas new media is effectively it's sort of modern forms of communication media. It is internet companies, software companies, and social media companies. And so there's a distinction, or a big difference in how we gather and access information, and it's sort of the shift and the transition between old to new media. So the creative economy is very important to California. These figures are from 2023. The creative economy directly employed, let's call it 830,000 workers in the state. It indirectly employed 640,000 workers. And by indirect employment, we're referring to the jobs which are created by virtue of the existence of the creative economy here. So when creative economy workers earn money, they spend it in the economy. These expenditures create jobs at Starbucks and wherever else, Kroger, wherever it is we spend our money. But also creative economy firms buy stuff from other firms. And this sort of downstream effects are having ripple effects in the economy. So this is the direct employment figure. This is sort of the secondary employment figure. And when you add the 2 together, the creative economy accounts for about 1 in 10 jobs in California. The thing about the creative economy, or particularly in California, is that it's the national leader. So if you look at California by itself, it accounts for 20% of all creative economy jobs in the US. 1 in 5. And the reason that people are typically interested in the creative economy is because they do support high-paying jobs. So within the state of California, on average, this is not to say that everybody in the creative economy is earning these wages, but on average, somebody in the creative economy in California is earning a shade over $200,000 a year. The economy-wide average in California is around about $83,000. So these are, for the most part, pretty high-paying jobs. So on that first slide with the bubbles, I spoke about the 9 sectors that make up the creative economy. This is how jobs are divided across these different subsectors of the creative economy in California. So that new media industry that we spoke about, those internet, software, social media companies, they make up around about 30% of all creative economy jobs in California. Film, TV, and sound, which includes effectively the motion picture industry, and the music and sound recording industries. They're the 2nd largest creative industry in the state, and a lot of those jobs are located here in LA. A lot of new media actually is up in the Bay Area. A lot of the film, TV, and sound, of course, is located down here. So this is how the jobs are divided in California across these sectors, and these are the wages paid on average by each of these industries. New media, if you're on average, the salary in this sector of the economy is $330,000, which sort of blows my mind a little bit, and certainly very nice work if you can get it. But you can see that how this sector alone is driving up the sort of statewide average. In fact, if you were to take this sector out, the average for the rest of the creative economy is still a very healthy $155,000. But that average is really being bumped up about a third by new media companies. This chart here is a preview of the dashboard that we're about to look at. What this is doing is tracking the employment growth in each of those 9 sectors that make up the creative economy in California since 2010. And you can see again that new media sector, internet, software, social media companies. Employment in this sector of the economy has tripled since 2010. Finance is the second quickest growing industry. But some creative industries have lost work. So fashion, a lot of manufacture of fashion products did occur here and still does in LA County, but that, like a lot of manufacturing, has seen employment losses. And film, TV, and sound has really been hit the last couple of years by a couple of factors. The strikes contributed, but there are also industry-specific dynamics to do with the rollout of streaming and overinvestment by companies, which then got cut, which led to sort of job losses. So motion picture has actually got fewer jobs today than it had in 2010. And then just finally, before we get into the dashboard, this chart here is ranking number of creative economy jobs in California counties. So this will be the top 10. So LA County has way more jobs than any other county. It's way bigger than a lot of the other counties in the state. And the creative economy accounts for about 8% of total employment in LA. Now this is, again, direct employment. I made the distinction before between the direct and indirect employment. This is just direct employment. San Francisco has fewer jobs than LA, but it's as a share of the total economy, it is slightly higher.
It's a smaller city.
It's by 10 times smaller. It's a tenth the size. Yes. So we're going to go on now to look at the dashboard. This is what the dashboard looks like, but just I want to give you a sort of overview of what the dashboard is. Ultimately, this is a tool that lets you track the performance of the creative economy in California. It's live. So the dashboard draws data from government websites like the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Every time the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases new data, it automatically updates within the dashboard. As I'm about to show you, there are 3 primary pages in the dashboard, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what is in each in a couple of moments' time. And fundamentally, what is it the dashboard does? Well, it tracks the main features of the economy, that is employment, wages, and business establishments, which I'll describe a little bit more in a couple of moments' time, in the creative economy in California. And there's information about the demographic profile of workers within the creative economy in the state. And with that, I'm going to navigate over to the dashboard. On each of your tablets, you should have installed already the creative economy dashboard. And people were using the dashboard on the tablets before, and so if you want to navigate to where I am, click in this little hamburger in the top right of the screen here. You'll see these 3 options. If you select County View, that will navigate you to the home page for the dashboard. This dashboard can be accessed via Otis's website, but I'll just give you a couple of moments to navigate there, and then I'll just give you a little demonstration of how it is that the dashboard works.
Does everybody pulling it up okay?
I don't know what it is.
Okay, so if you open Safari, app.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay.
And then on the hamburger menu, there, that one, yeah, you can go to the county view. And that's where he's gonna
Hi,
start.
I'm Siri.
Okay, is everybody looking at this? Okay, I should have said in the beginning, but please interrupt me at any time. I might always be looking up because I'm looking here or there, just shout out. That's not a problem at all. So this is the home page. We call it the county view because, as I'll show you in a couple of moments' time, it lets you track the creative economy within California counties. But let's first look at some of the main features of the dashboard. So the first thing to note is that these are odometers at the top of the screen here. This is telling you how many people are employed in the creative economy in California, the average wages they paid, we saw these figures before, and the number of business establishments that are engaged in creative economy activities within the state. Now this term business establishments is a little bit inside baseball. There's ultimately a distinction drawn between firms and business locations. So Starbucks is one firm, but it might have 400 locations in LA County. What a business establishment is counting the number of physical business locations. So it's not counting firms because some firms might be counted multiple times within here. This number here is the impact, so we spoke about that before. These creative economy jobs support a further 865,000 jobs in the state as creative economy workers are spending money, as creative economy firms are buying goods and services from other firms. This part of the dashboard here, that is not good. I think I've got plenty of life in my dashboard, but that is, I'm not sure what's happened here. This is
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Where were we? This panel here, telling us the share of creative economy jobs in the state of California, 4.6%. Again, this is direct employment, rather than direct and indirect employment. Within the state of California, 4.5% of all jobs are in the creative economy. Okay, I cannot see my screen anymore, but that's fine. This feature in the bottom right of the panel here is tracking the number of jobs in each of the 9 creative economy sectors that we saw at the beginning, which are listed over the side here. We'll come back to that side of the dashboard in a moment. So I actually cannot see on my screen here, but if I was to go here, is this okay, now I can. So what this is telling us, this bar here, is that in new media in the state of California, there are 240,000 workers, and the next bar is going to tell us that in film and TV in the state of California, there are 111,000 workers, and so on and so forth. So these are the main features of the dashboard, and you're able to manipulate each of these different features in 4 different ways. So the first thing that you're able to do is toggle between the type of output that you want to see. So if you look at this chart here, this is tracking the total number of jobs in the creative economy in California and how it's changed since 2010. Okay, so this is just a count of the number of jobs. But what I might want to do is look at how wages have changed over time. So if I click on average wages at the top here, the output has now changed, so that we're not tracking the number of jobs anymore, we're tracking the evolution in the wages paid by the creative economy in the state of California. I'm going to toggle back to employment here. Another thing that we're able to do is to manipulate the date that appears in this panel here. So I'm looking, by default, the dashboard is going to track employment since 2010, but if I wanted to, I could look at what has happened since the beginning of the pandemic. I could toggle to the first quarter, Q1 of 2020, and what this is doing is tracking employment since that date. So we can sort of manipulate the end date as well. We might want to know how many jobs were added prior to the pandemic and sort of cut the chart off in the period prior to the pandemic. Again, I'm going to go back to the default setting here. Another thing that we're able to do is to manipulate how the data are displayed. So by default, the data is showing you the total number of jobs or the count of jobs within the economy, creative economy in California. But I can change this so that we are displaying what we would think of as relative change or percentage change. So we can see that since 2010, as it existed before, we were just tracking the count of jobs, the total number of jobs over that period of time. By changing to an index, what we're doing is tracking the percentage change in the number of jobs over time, so that we can say that since 2010, the total creative economy in California, or the number of jobs in the creative economy, is increased by 26%. Okay, so we can toggle between what we would consider to be totals and percentage change with respect to our primary output. The fourth way that we can manipulate the data that appears on this dashboard, or sorry, I should say the third way, is by displaying, is with respect to which industry we are displaying information for. So by default, the dashboard is going to show you employment and wages for the entirety of the creative economy, but we might want to know how the advertising industry is doing. So if we click on this tab here, what we're now seeing, or what we can now see, is the count of advertising jobs in the state of California and how that has evolved over the past number of years. You can see also that the panels at the top here have changed to reflect the statistics in the advertising industry. So within the state, in the most recent period, there are 61,643 people employed, and they were earning on average a wage of $116 $1,000, and I could click on our wages here. So now what I would be looking at is wages in the advertising industry and how it is they have evolved over time. Now I can add more than just one industry to this panel here. So I have advertising selected, I can add the architecture industry and the creative goods industry. And when we look at this, now what we're able to do is to start comparing the performance of different industries within the state of California across each of these 9 categories that make up the creative economy. And again, if I wanted to see how the wages differed across each of these sectors, I'll just select wages, and you can see that advertisers pay more than architects, who pay more than creative goods companies. So again, it's another feature that enables us to toggle between these different sectors. And then finally, as I go back to the default setting, which is total creative economy, by default, the dashboard is showing you information for the state of California, but I can look at the performance of individual counties. Now, I would note that not every county can be displayed here because some counties, they're just too small, they don't have enough employment. So in the northern parts of the state, very rural communities, there's just not enough employment there for us to provide any sort of meaningful take on how the economy is doing. But what I can do, either by selecting this drop-down a county from the drop-down box here, or just selecting it on the map, is select a county. So what I've done here is select LA County, and what we see is that everything has changed according to LA County. So we now have a creative economy employment in LA County, the wages they pay, the evolution of these wages over time, and then of course I can go through the same process we went through before. If I want to know, how advertising is performing in LA County, I can manipulate the dashboard by a given place and a given industry. Okay, so this is the first view of the dashboard. The primary purpose of it is to enable you to track the performance of different aspects of the creative economy and compare different aspects of the creative economy within counties in California. I'm now going to toggle, if you're following with me, to the second page, which is going to be the Compare Cities page. And whereas that first page enabled me to explore the creative economy within individual counties, what this page here enables us to do is to compare the creative economy in different places in California. And rather than counties, this is looking at metropolitan areas. So when we select LA and San Francisco, we're detecting Metro LA, which includes Orange County, and Metro San Francisco, which includes some of the counties surrounding San Francisco County. Now what we'll notice here is that the features at the top are the same as they were on the previous dashboard, so we can manipulate by geography, data format, date, and the type of output that we want to see. But again, what this feature now is doing is comparing 2 different places. So here we can see that in Metro LA, in the 4th quarter of 2023, there were nearly 400,000 creative economy jobs. In San Francisco, there were 131,000 creative economy jobs. Again, as I could do on the previous dashboard, I can change the output and compare wages. And then what we see is that while it's the case that LA County has more creative economy jobs than San Francisco, the creative economy jobs in San Francisco pay a lot more than the creative economy jobs in LA, 309,000, let's call it, compared to 139,000. So we see big differences between the 2 places. And what we're able to do as well is not just compare the creative economy. One thing that we might be interested to know is what is it that's driving this difference between the 2 places? Why is it that creative economy workers in San Francisco earn so much more than they do in LA? And my hunch is that it has something to do with new media. The industry we spoke about before, those internet companies, there seem to be a lot of them in the Bay Area. So that could be what is driving up wages. And so what I can do is look at employment for new media in the 2 places. So we've got LA and San Francisco. You can see in San Francisco, there's 81,000 people employed in those internet and software companies versus only 51,000 in LA. In San Francisco, there are 131,000 jobs total in the creative economy. So the majority of their creative economy is new media. And what do we know about new media companies, particularly in the Bay Area? is they pay really high wages. So if I click back on our wages tab, you can see that people working in new media in San Francisco on average, and boggles the mind, $433,000 on average is the wage they're earning. So that is what is driving the differences between LA and San Francisco. Is you have these new media companies, they pay astronomical wages, which is why creative economy worker in San Francisco is earning more than in LA, because there's just differences in the type of creative economy present here versus what might be present there. And so to this point, and by default, the dashboard compares LA and San Francisco, but I could deselect LA and San Francisco, and I could compare, I got this wrong before, here we go, San Luis Obispo with Santa Maria, and Santa Maria is effectively San Bernardino County. And so what I can do is compare, let me go back here, sorry, the creative economy in each of these two places. So this is, again, comparing Santa Maria and San Luis Obispo. I could add another county if I wanted. I could add Fresno County or Metropolitan Fresno or Bakersfield to this chart. So again, the core feature here is that it enables us to compare the creative economy across different places within California. We can compare employment and we can compare wages. The last feature on this dashboard that I'd like to bring your attention to is just these odometers that are at the top here. These are just tracking sort of the hottest and coldest, or the fastest growing and the slowing growing places in California with respect to the creative economy. So this is telling us that since 2010 in San Francisco has seen the highest growth in creative economy employment, whereas Salinas has actually lost jobs in the creative economy over that period of time. But I can manipulate this as well to see which place in California has the fastest growing advertising industry. So if you select by advertising and you want to know which place within the state has the hottest growth, I've seen the hottest growth, it's actually Riverside County, or it's actually the Inland Empire, Riverside and San Bernardino counties together. And again, poor old Salinas has been doing poorly within this sector as well. And this feature on the side of the dashboard here is tracking national growth. So this is looking at the metropolitan areas in the US, which in this case have been performing better in advertising. But if I went back to select the creative economy, you can see which places have been doing the best with respect to the total creative economy. And finally, let's take a look at the third dashboard here. The third dashboard here is our demographic dashboard. So what we've been looking at to this point is a survey of firms. How many people do you employ? What wages do you pay? What we're doing here is actually looking at the characteristics of individual workers. Now, this is using a different survey from what we were using for the first two panels, and this survey has some limitations. And one of the limitations is this data is for the whole of California. It's not, we cannot really look at counties and metropolitan areas. And the other limitation is that this is looking at the entirety of the creative economy. We're not able to look at individual sectors within the creative economy. Now, the way this dashboard is set up, it enables us to manipulate two variables by different demographics within the state of California. And there's a third feature at the bottom here, which I'll get to in a couple of moments' time. So the two variables that we can manipulate are the unemployment rate and average weekly wages. So by default, this page looks at the unemployment rate by age and weekly wages by age. So what this is showing us is that the unemployment rate for creative economy workers in California is higher for people aged 16 to 29 than it is for people over 50. And what we can see here is that people who, or younger workers, earn less than their older counterparts. Another way that we can manipulate this is to look at education. So what we now see is that people with a non-college degree have an unemployment rate which is higher than people with a college degree. Again, some of this might be intuitive at a basic level, and people who hold a college degree earn much more in the creative economy than people without a non-college degree. Now, what we're able to do is sort of create crosstabs where we can put more than one variable within these fields at a given time. So if I go back and add age to this output, what we see here is that the unemployment rate is particularly high for young people who don't have a college degree. Their unemployment rate in the creative economy is high, and also a young person who doesn't hold a college degree earns much lower wages than effectively the rest of the people working in the creative economy. So you can start to get a better understanding about wages and employment rates by manipulating this panel here. Now, another thing that this panel here does is manipulate this bottom chart here. And what this bottom chart does is track the composition of the creative economy workforce in California. So I have selected education here, and what this is showing us is that since 2010, we've seen an enormous transition in the creative economy in California with respect to people's level of educational attainment. In 2010, it was kind of 50-50. 50% of workers had a college degree, 50% of the workers in the creative economy in California didn't have a college degree. We've seen a big transition since this time, so that in 2023, we see that now 3 out of 4, 75% of the workers in the creative economy now hold a college degree, 25% don't. So we've seen this big transition with respect to the profile of worker within the creative economy. And then finally, this is sort of our one of our more experimental features. We can select race. Now, the survey we're using, unfortunately, doesn't give us a lot of granularity with respect to race when you're carving, when you're reducing the sample size to first the creative economy and then people working within the creative economy. And what I mean by that is this is a national survey, and the survey is sort of picking up people with different characteristics. The creative economy already only accounts for 5% of the jobs in California, and then if you were to look at sort of races within that 5%, you start to get really small sample sizes for respondents by different racial types. So we had to make a call about whether we just didn't include race or whether we included race in a suboptimal way. And the way that we get the sample sizes up is by having a white and a non-white category, which again is far from ideal, but it does at least give you a glimpse to show that just at the sort of the margins, at least over time, the white share of the workforce has become less pronounced, falling from around about 75% down to 60%, whereas the non-white category has been growing. And with that, if anybody has any questions at all, happy to field them. They're about to kick me out of here, but please, by all means,